Hey, what's up guys, and welcome in this new tutorial where I'm gonna show you some professional reverb techniques for tech house. So before starting with this tutorial, I would like to remind you that all of the samples are from our new sample pack Apex, which is a modern tech house collection that includes one-shots, loops, construction kits and much more that you can check out from the link in the description below. So let's start with this vocal channel. So we already have here the reverb, so for this tutorial we are only gonna use the reverb on a send channel, which is something that we highly recommend so that you have much more control on the reverb signal. So as you can see, we're using this preset which is called vocal all, and so the first kind of technique is gonna be setting up this send correctly. So as you can see here in Ableton we have the send A and the send B. Our reverb is on send A, so we are actually gonna put this one to 0. And then what you can do is simply mix the reverb here from the fader. In this way, once again, you have much more control over the dry signal, which is like the vocal, and the reverb signal, which is coming from the send A. However, this can sound a bit confusing, and the reverb can like overlap with the vocal, and the most common way to fix that is to add some sidechain on the reverb itself. So we're gonna use the compressor. We're gonna load it here on the send A where we have the reverb. We're gonna open the sidechain and we're gonna select the audio from the dry vocal. In this way we won't have the reverb when we have like the sing parts, but the reverb is only gonna appear in these like silent bits, and to do that we have to decrease the threshold, of course. So to hear the difference a bit more, we're gonna over exaggerate here. Yeah, and overall it sounds much cleaner. Another couple of things that you can do on this send channel is adding some processing. So obviously there are quite a lot of processing that you can do here. For example, you can add some saturation. So we're gonna use the Ableton saturator here. As you can hear, it's like much fuller. And another thing that you can do is add some EQ. So we're gonna mute the saturation. For the EQ, you can add it either before the reverb or after the reverb. So in this case we are removing all of the high frequencies, which means that the reverb which is coming off from this send A is only gonna be focused here, while if we put this one before the reverb, we are actually gonna change the signal right before it goes into the reverb. So you can hear the difference. If we have right after, we won't have any high frequencies in the reverb. If we have it right before, we are cutting the high frequencies from the dry vocal, so the reverb is gonna only be applied to these mid frequencies. Then you can do some modulation with some phaser, which can also be a good idea. Maybe this one it's a bit more useful on drums, but we're gonna see this one later.
never ever known, never ever, never ever known, never ever.
This can give this really familiar 80s kind of style, and yeah, overall it can make the reverb a bit more interesting, but I think this technique works better on the drums, and yeah, that's what we're gonna do right now. So we're gonna move into the drums. So we have this top loop. We're actually gonna use this same reverb. We're just gonna change the preset. Maybe, I don't know, let's go for something here like this snare plate. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, something like this. So we're gonna remove the compressor, and the trick here for the drums is to add a transient shaper right before the reverb. So we're gonna use the native instrument transient master, and what you wanna do is completely remove the sustain. So let's have a listen here. And boost a bit of the attack. So in this way, basically we are triggering the reverb only with the attack. So we are not gonna use, for example, here we have this very long hi-hats and claps. If all of these were triggering the reverb, we would have a much more messy situation here. Instead, with the transient master, we are basically removing all of the sustain from this loop, and we are only using the peaks of the hats and the claps to trigger the reverb. And as I told you previously, we can also use a phaser. This can work well, maybe it works better with some snares, but I mean, it will give you an idea here. So actually we can change the frequency to make it a bit more random. So as you can see, this is not on grid like here. We have the rate, which is adjustable. So we have 1/2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. While with the frequency, we are basically randomizing this phaser effect so that every time can be different. And obviously you can use the same trick that we used before with the EQ, with the processing, with the sidechain. And yeah, basically that's all for this tutorial on how to use Reverb like Pro in your tech house tracks. Don't forget to check out Apex from the link in the description below. Let us know what tutorials would you like to see next, and I'll see you soon. Bye.